Hey, what is up, everyone? Kilryan and Flo here, bringing you the second Everything TERA podcast. This week, we're going to be talking a little bit about PvE, old and new and upcoming, as well as touching up on the Champion Skyrim 3v3 tournament that was just recently announced. I'm Kilryan. I have many guides on YouTube, as well as being one of the larger TERA streamers. You can check out my YouTube at youtube.com/Kilryan. You can find gold making, power leveling, just random stuff. And, and then, Flo, what do you do and have?
Hi, my name is Flo, and I am a guild master on TERA. I do a lot of competitive 3v3, so I showcase a lot of Slayer gameplay, Slayer PvP. I've actually written a guide over on TERAtoday.com. You can check out a lot of TERA-related content at youtube.com/Flowroro. I also have my Facebook and my Twitter, and they all say Flowroro on it. It's pretty simple to find me if you really look.
Yeah. All about that plug life for both of us. So, like I was saying, though, is today we really want to address PvE. PvE is what I think a lot of players focus on when it comes to TERA, because people who play MMORPGs in general seem to have that PvE inclination. Though me and Flo are both pretty focused on PvP, we've also had our fair share of PvE. Like, I've cleared MC hard mode 180 times.
Oh my god. MC hard mode, I've done this so many times now at this point.
Yeah. But for the most part, what PvE is, for those of you who don't know, I'm assuming most of you do, but is player versus environment. TERA's PvE, kind of going back to our first podcast, which if you want to see that, you can click the link here. I'll post an annotation. It's, what's it called? For the most part, TERA's PvE is centered around 5-mans, with the new introduction of 10-mans and things like that. But the core aspect behind it is the real action combat, which we addressed. And so what that does really for the game is it creates another layer, creates a new kind of feel to what PvE is. Instead of in WoW where you click it, spam your buttons and shit happens, you're having to dodge roll out of Queen's lasers and things along those lines. What is one of the prime moments of PvE that you remember, Flo?
I think that when it comes to doing PvE with TERA, you're really engaged in sort of the combat. It's just not so simple as just tab targeting where, you just kind of tank and spank and you DPS and you just get heals. I mean, those core fundamentals are still there, but the important thing about TERA's PvE is it actually feels very rewarding. The bosses, they just seem so ridiculous and you're having to take them down, and it's just kind of, I don't know, it's a lot more entertaining than other PvE because it doesn't seem as tedious in comparison to doing other things and having to do the same things. Each boss provides their own set of skills, and it's up to you to dodge them and play around it.
Yeah,
I think it's a lot more fun that way.
Me and you both have done a little bit of the old PvE content of TERA. I've been pretty much playing since February of last year, and I played 3 months on release. But for the most part, I played since it went free to play. But even back then, when it was on release, what was your experience with the original content, Fane of Caprima, Baldur's Temple, and things like that?
Well, after finally hitting level 60, it was kind of alright, this is the time. Let's start doing the end game stuff and try to start progressing in terms of gear, in terms of gold, etc. And it was extremely hard. Each dungeon that first came out was oh my gosh, people didn't even know what charms and crystals were back in the day.
Yeah.
Scrolls, this is we're at the point in the game where we know what consumables we need, but when on release, it was so difficult. You died so easily. People didn't understand there was a difference between specs for killing normal monsters and specs for killing bosses. It was a different thing.
Yeah. I remember, because back when I played on release, I was a warrior. And, back then, no one, warrior, you did not tank with that. You know what I mean? In the Fane of Caprima days and stuff. Because you didn't have block. Back then, we didn't have block or anything. And so, as a warrior and whatnot, relying on being an evasive tank because I was trying to be a warrior tank at that time. It just didn't seem to work very well. But like you were saying about like the consumables and stuff, now yeah, we know like okay, we really want to go hard. Get your Canaphora potion, get your savagery scrolls, get
Get your potions, get all like oh hey, we can even go get like bonus stamina. Like there's all these little things that can give us advantages. But back then when we started, we didn't know anything. We were like we didn't even have the goal to even like purchase those items back in the day, so it was just like a new thing to us. Yeah, we decided to go hard.
I remember another thing to note about like PvE back then was like crystals. No one had green crystals. Crystal mines weren't a thing. You were like, I'm not going to be using like this acrimonious crux or whatever. It's like, rather you went to the special. Did you do this? You went to the specialty store and bought white pristine cruxes.
Oh my gosh, the specialty store wasn't even open half the time. It was just like
I know.
we had to go kill other mobs and hope the right crystals dropped on the floor, or it's just like potions were like let's go gather for like an hour and like slowly make it, and it, like you go to the alchemist store and it's just like it's so expensive and you're looking at your wallet and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah,
I'm broke. Like, where's my money? Like, it was pretty fun.
You would die and then see that one crystal broke. You're just like, fuck, why? But with how TERA has progressed since then, like back then with Fennec Prima and Baldur's Temple kicking berserkers out of groups because Lancers wanted gear, all that stuff. Like overall, I think TERA's PvE has progressed in a positive manner. At least to the point of like MC hard mode. Like for those of you who are currently playing the game right now, MC hard mode is still the hardest content in the game. Keep in mind that came out like 4 major content patches ago.
Maybe a long time ago.
Yeah, like MC hard mode was out a year ago, and it still to this day is the hardest content. And I mean, when I first was clearing it, like, my first clear of MC hard mode was on my Berserker. Everyone knows me as a Berserker. And I was on Ascension Valley with Royalty. And back then, like, the server first group got it, like, 2 weeks before my group killed it then as well. And, I think I liked that aspect. Like, I liked having a set guild and, like, that set 5-man to where you had to go through, like, progression attempts.
Yeah.
Like, what was your experience with having to, like, form a static and everything along those lines?
Oh, just that whole, like, my interest in TERA at the time was just, I was just so invested in getting better at PvP and learning how to, like, play my stuff. But then it was just like, you need the gear, and then I'm going into MC with people that have downed it. Like, people, like, we got the, like, NA got the knowledge of Manaya's core 1 month after the Koreans finally downed it. And even then, it took us a month before we downed it ourselves because of the amount of skill that it took to even down this dungeon. So going in there, it was like suicide. The Queen came, and it was a lot easier of a fight than the very initial.
Yeah. I could only imagine having to actually go into that place without not, like, knowing mechanics. Like, you're doing Queen on Cocoon phase, mobs start spawning, you're like, we gotta kill these.
Even before the Queen phases, even before that, the first 2 bosses on release were so difficult to the point where people were kiting the boss with their mount and running in a circle like a circus and just DPSing it while pulling it around in a circle because of how difficult it was.
I wiped many of times on the first MC hard mode boss, like healers not being able to keep up to par. But I mean, mechanically, it is still a challenging instance, and that's what makes it hard. But in comparison to what's it called? Like back then when we first were killing this, you said you were killing it in T13. See,
yeah,
I didn't. My first clear was actually like +9 Agnator, which is still an accomplishment for the most part. But like, I don't think it's as hard.
like a +10 Amani Plowshare, like Dreamkeeper set, like a my armor was like pathetic. It was like PvP armor on the side. Like I was like, I got this. Let me just learn to fight, and I'll go from there.
I had a lot of the focus as well on PvP whenever I first hit 60 as well. I got my I just binge PvP'd and got like conjunct gear. Except I solo queued, and this was back when the account or the servers weren't merged. Do you remember that? How like Mount Tyrannus would not go against like Ascension Valley and like LOT and all that stuff?
Yeah.
And so like whenever we first merged, we were all in like conjunct gear and everyone else had like Vision Maker from MC Hard Mode. We were just like, what the hell? But yeah, for the most part, I think MC Hard Mode really provided that kind of engaging content that TERA needed back then. Whether it be like rallying guilds or even rallying entire servers behind like clearing that kind of thing. And you know, once we actually got it down, we started doing quill sales. Like I'm not sure how many quill sales you did, but like my group was the first group on Ascension Valley to start clearing that, and it was just like we made bank off selling quills and selling regents. I remember selling a sorcerer disc for 200k. And we got 40k split across each of our group. It was like,
I think that like just being able to accomplish something that no other group was capable of doing at the time was like, it was really rewarding for players, especially since like just the existence of Mania's core on the TERA was just a giant, like a really big challenge for the entire NA scene, since they really never had such a difficult time with PvE before. And I think that like the fact that it was a 5-man, not even a raid, like people were like, why isn't it a raid? It's so difficult.
Yeah.
It was extremely fun, like just being able to down that stuff. Even though like I'm not the type to really invest myself into PvE, I have to admit like I had a really fun experience learning it and downing the people I wanted to down it with.
5-man, I like the idea of 5-man content because it's like, if with 5 people, if one person screws up, you're done. You know, like that person needs to be pulling their weight in like the content, otherwise you're screwed. You know what I mean? At least in challenging PvE content like MC Hard Mode. Post MC Hard Mode though, which a lot of you players have probably not cleared MC Hard Mode, and y'all are coming into the game when Wonderholm and stuff like that is the top end content. But I don't know. Like, with the current meta, I guess, of PvE gear and whatnot, I think that they kind of did TERA a injustice. With how simple the content is, I think I get where they came from. They were wanting to, like, equalize everybody's gear and whatnot. But to some degree, I think that it's, like, hurt the game more than, like, benefited it.
Well, what the new PvE content was trying to offer was more options for people to have more fun. There was like a lot of different, I guess, like experimental mechanics that they wanted to provide into the game. But the main issue was the fact that just the whole looting system, in my opinion, was completely flawed. Like when Queen first came out, like it gave the economy a chance to balance out. You know, like people that knew they couldn't down it. Like not everyone's gonna have the opportunity to down this PvE content. They're willing to give it a try, but you know, not everyone's gonna have the time to just really get their face into that content. And just being able to sell that gear and providing it for the community was an option that we can have. With Wonderholm though, it wasn't the case. Bind on pickup on gear that has 1 out of 3 weapons of your one specific class out of 8 classes, and 1 piece of chest out of 8 classes, which has a really rare chance of dropping. It was completely flawed. It was like a waste of time. People felt weren't rewarded for being able to down that sort of content, even though it was kind of hard too, like when it first came out. But it's just maybe not really, but
yeah,
it was pretty fun in its own aspect.
Yeah, it was new. It was definitely new. Like I can see where you're coming from with like the new implementation of like mechanics and stuff, but I don't know. I think they needed to. They could have made it Wonderholm hard mode actually hard. You know what I mean? Like I'd be fine with Wonderholm normal mode being like kind of easy, or just like default level. Like, I think Wonderhome normal mode should have been
the hard mode right now. Like, it should have been into the normal.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things that you could have done at the very release of Wonderhome Hard that made it like really easy. Just the whole like reflect charms, being able not even having to do anything and like killing the boss, like suiciding the boss by reflecting. That was like, are you? Why are you making this content so easy all of a sudden? It was kind of like, I don't know, like the fact that Queen was such a good impact onto the game. They should have really tried to meet that expectation. And they clearly didn't with how the game went.
I agree.
Right now.
Like that's where I'm coming from with like the equalize. Like they wanted to try to equalize gear and whatnot, because you know the original people clearing Queen and whatnot. Like we got Vision Maker, you know, and that was like the shit. Whenever that was kind of around, and no one could compete. Like if you were in conjunct. Like, Wonderhome hard mode gear, in my opinion, scales up better to Vision Maker 2 currently than, like, Conjunct did to Vision Maker 1 back then. So, I see where they're coming from with it, but to go back to what you said earlier about the money, yes. Like, with the implementation of the Wonderhome patch, it absolutely killed money-making in the game. At least... For people who are willing to put the time in to progress through content, form that static, sell quills, and like farm the hardest content, and then open up that gear to some degree to like the people who play less and stuff like that. I think that that's completely valid. I hope that they bring that back. You know?
I hope the same way. Like they're like saying right now with the new PvE content. We're going to try to set the bar, what we did before. We understand that we made some mistakes with the Wonderhome thing, and we just wanted to provide a different experience. Like, it was just, got to give them a little break. They were just trying to, like, test something new, I guess. But in terms of, like, I guess to say, the economy right now is really spelling out that word. I don't like using this term a lot, but the word pay to win right now with buying your, like, all these items in order to help you progress your gear. Like, it's making that have way more precedence than doing dungeons right now, which is kind of a shame, because that's never been a problem before in the game until pretty recently, so.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, that's definitely one fear that I think every person who plays TERA and kind of knows what's going on with it has, because, you know, with TERA being a free-to-play game, easily the best free-to-play game, or at least MMORPG on the market, we have to be really careful, and I hope that they understand that what they're doing now is very, very successful. Release Ellen costumes, release new costumes every like 2 weeks, but don't make it to where you have to pay to like craft your gear and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And like you said, with a lot of the gear being purchasable now, I think. Or a lot of the gear being, like... Because you can buy straight-up Wonderhome hard mode gear, but then you have to pay a lot of gold for that.
Yeah, and not only that, but even that gear that's bind on equip that you can actually sell, it doesn't drop all the time. It's also, like,
never.
RNG. Like, it's such a low chance. That's why the price tag is humongous right now. It's just... It's unbelievable.
Yeah, And another thing, or just to progress this along, like you said, with the new PvE content that they're looking to release, the new content is actually hitting TERA in 6 days, on the 14th, which, you know, from what we've read, from what we've seen on TerraToday.com, posted by Espe and everyone over there, they're looking to reinstate that kind of challenge of like MC hard mode, like classic MC hard mode. They're looking to reinstate, hopefully, the economy standards and status. I think there's a new solo dungeon. There's a new 3-man. There's a replacement MC hard mode, so like a really hard 5-man. And then I think there's also a 7 and 10-man, I think.
Yeah, there should be a solo dungeon, which is capable of It has varying difficulty, just like how Crucible, when Crucible Flame came out, it has, like the three pillars. You decide which pillar, which difficulty you want to do. That same concept is going to be applied to the solo dungeon. There's a new 3-man, 2 new 5-mans. One of them is going to be the challenge that every PvEer right now is wanting to meet, and the other one is going to be just like an Argon Corpus like equivalent dungeon where you just want to go in there and just kind of down it and just see how it is, like different mechanics, different bosses, etc. 7-man and a new 10-man, which has like the Sujuku Gallery feel in terms of like the environment and stuff.
I'm like that though. Like,
yeah.
I love little PvE content where it has that feel to it, because it opens it up to where it's not like this mechanically like super challenging thing, but like more like a fun dungeon that everyone can run. And you still get like, especially if they approach it like SAG, where if you're getting that good score, you're getting a lot more talents, you're getting a lot more gold value out of it. And if they do that, I will love to run that like every day.
People love to be rewarded for the amount of effort they put into the game. I think that same concept should always be applied, especially when it comes to PvE. PvE takes a lot of work, and you're investing a lot of your time, your effort, and your gold into it, so it may as well be rewarded for it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The PvE in this game has always been rewarding. You always get rewarded for playing well. You always get rewarded for downing the dungeons, so they should really try to stick to that core concept.
Yeah, for the most part, I think that they will do a good job, because like we addressed last time in the the first podcast, they do have a new creation group, a new content group, and so with them coming in and looking at MC Hard Mode and going, this is right, this is what we want another one of, you know what I mean? Like, the fact that they're viewing it as such, and within 3 months they brought out the Reaper class. I'm excited to see what they're doing in 6-7 months with the new content, with all the feel of the new PvE and the new mechanics that have been introduced into the game. Like,
yeah, they're just flushing in content right now. We're just gonna get overwhelmed, Like, there's all these things to do. I hope it just keeps us really busy. That's like the important thing, especially with a new MC hard mode successor. Like, that's the one. That's the big thing right now. Everyone's really excited to do.
And one thing to note about the new content, a lot of people are wondering about like VM3. I don't think VM3 is going to exist. I think there's going to be another tier, like a new tier, top of the line tier, like. For those of you who played way back in the day, Dreamkeeper to Vision Maker. It's a completely separate tier and a completely new item set which you have to craft, rather than upping it like currently. Make your Vision Maker 1, then turn that into Vision Maker 2. I think that's a good idea. That they're going. I'm hoping that that's what they're doing, and not going, let's craft Vision Maker 1 into Vision Maker 2 and then make Vision Maker 3. I think that would be rather obnoxious.
I don't think VM3 is going to exist either, mainly because on the release of Reaper, they haven't even they said for Reaper there's going to be no Strike Force, there's going to be no Nightforge gear. If that gear isn't going to exist for the Reaper, what makes you think there's going to be a progression tree for the Reaper? They have to kind of equal it out with all the classes, right? With the introduction of a 9th class. But I think at the same time, with the implementation of a brand new tier, I think that gear is going to have to, unfortunately, it's going to be better than VM2 PvE PvP. It has to be. Like, there's a brand new super difficult dungeon it's bound to drop something that's going to be better than our current gear. But I think right now you're okay to work towards that gear. Now we still have like 4 months or so before we get this content. It's okay to go for it, and it's gonna be my honest opinion, it's gonna be pretty close. It's always been pretty close with Strike Force versus Nightforge. Right now is like basically this close in terms of damage, but just a different effect, because you're gonna get rewarded for all the effort. Like, it's gonna be the same way.
Another thing that I really hope is that they remove the VM proc of the VM proc. For those of you who don't know what that is, Blacksmith's Hammer Strike, which is a RNG random number generator 2-second stun on both players and PvE mobs, which it PV or RNG outside of like crits shouldn't exist. You know what I mean? Like you need to not have such a powerful effect happen just on complete RNG because that can turn the tides of a lot of things.
It's just that in PvE, that's not as important in PvE because it's not really going to stop the boss from killing you, in my opinion. In PvP, it has so much precedence. Like, just the fact that you're not controlling that sort of thing from happening. If it happens, like, there's so much capitalization over it, and you're just kind of like, oh, I got a stun on you, you know, every single time. It takes no skill, and there's just no reward, and... Hold on a second. Anyways, yeah, it's just... it's unbelievable, really. Like, I think that thing should be completely removed. Having, like, a dot effect, I think, is fine. Like, a little bit of damage, maybe that would be fine, but just... Stuns are just already so ridiculous in PvP. We shouldn't have more things happen.
Speaking of PvP, which, for those of you who have been keeping up with EnMasse and everything like that, EnMasse announced a 3v3 tournament. You know, and EnMasse announcing 3v3, the Skyring Slam.
Slam! Who's ready, you know, like... oh, man.
Sorry, you go ahead.
I think EnMasse has an okay history with PvP tournaments, but if with 3v3, it doesn't really seem like they have that much knowledge on how 3v3 works in terms of the game. So there's like a really big bar they have to set, and they really need to build up the hype for it because not a lot of us are having good expectations of a 3v3 tournament happening right now.
Yeah.
Just with the whole like, all right, who like. Jumping, like that's such a controversial topic right now. Is jumping going to be a big impact in terms of PvP? And just like, oh, everyone's gonna run a Lancer. Lancers are really strong classes. It's gonna really limit down what classes you're gonna see in the tournament. And it's just like we have a lot of the community right now has really low expectations of how this tournament's gonna go. So
one thing that we have to address about that, though, is our community, like me and your community, obviously, is very centered around 3v3. Like, we're essentially focused on top-end scale PvP, which is 3v3 in the end. And I don't think that EnMasse fully gets PvP. Like, you know, Tonka and them are great. They can talk and do really bad at Corsair Stronghold on occasion and stuff like that, but they don't really understand what 3v3 is and how the game, in my opinion, balances out. And so it's cool that they're doing this event, but like you said, they need to have heavy restriction. You know, with jumping being one of the major things. For those of you who don't know what that does, I'm sure some of you are familiar with desync, which your character appears to be somewhere when they're actually not, and this results in a lot of missed hits and stuff, and that's just like a server error. What jumping does on top of that is it forces desync a lot of time, as well as instead of your ability properly landing, it will negate the effect and knock down the target, which it's obscene. It's obscene that is a mechanic within the game. I personally don't think it's intended by any means. I think it's a fluke, and if they don't apply proper regulation to this, to where it forces desync, to where it stops players from properly playing their setups and properly playing their class, like, that's going to be a major flaw in the tournament. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like the whole idea of like the fact that I have control over the playing field just by merely being able to levitate in the air and just stop things from happening is kind of like it makes the game look very shit, in my opinion. It's just like there's not much skill being involved, and if EnMasse doesn't really know how to manage that, then it's just gonna make the tournament look like a
joke.
Like a bunny nest. Everyone's just kind of hopping everywhere and stuff like that.
Yeah. Another
Yeah.
thing to address about it is the class composition. You know, I think anyone, also anyone who's watching this right now, don't be afraid to play whatever damn class you feel like playing. I play a Zerker, I play a Zerker for life pretty much. He plays a Slayer. Both of these classes are fairly underrepresented in PvP, but we still love it and we still make it work to some degree. Or, Flow makes it work really, really well, So don't be afraid of whatever we're saying here regarding like class compositions and whatnot. But we will point out a couple things that I think it just needs to be balanced in general for PvP. Primarily being Lancers. With Lancers having a minute-long cooldown, which basically forces you to play defensive, this being Giga Leash, groups everyone up. Perfect setup for high damage classes like Archer and Sorcerer, even Warrior perpetuating stuns on top of that. I think that that's going to plague the 3v3 tournament.
Just the whole idea of one class having so much control over the PvP, it just puts so much intimidation on other classes. You're like, oh god, if my partner over there, he gets stunned, I'm gonna get pulled in as a result of him being stunned, and there's really not much you can do about it. It's it's insane, just how much stronger some classes are going to be in comparison to others. That doesn't necessarily mean that other classes are bad per se. It's just that some classes are more designed to cause way more large proportional effects that happen in comparison to a Zerker and a Slayer where we only focus on single target. It's pretty it'll definitely be the class to see a lot in 3v3 for sure.
It'll be the class to see in 3v3. A lot of predictions, because right now the strongest comps, or known as cheese comps, are Archer, Lancer, Priest, or Mystic. Warrior, Lancer, Priest, or Mystic. And even Warrior, Sorcerer, would you say? But it's very rare to come across that good of a Sorcerer. But those two comps primarily, I think, are going to just be everywhere. Like myself as a Zerker, a lot of people don't even want to play. I'm like, hey, let's do the 3v3 tournament. But a lot of people are like, well, we want to win with these kinds of awards, being 3,000 EMP for each individual player on a team for first place, as well as a full ninja outfit suit. I really hope that in due time, just the state of PvP progresses, and with the next patch, the PvE patch, they have a very good opportunity to kind of balance out gear and just how classes work. You know what I mean? Let's see. I'm reading the notes here, and do you want to go out on why did they make Kuma Asylum? To step off of the 3v3 tournament topic.
Oh my god. Kuma Asylum is the biggest minigame designed ever. I think that the release of Kuma Asylum is just... I think their intention was, hey, let's make content that, level 30s and up can play, just as a pastime. And just with the way the game looks and the whole environment and everything, there's these mobs with diapers on, you can just there's a giant Super Mario feeling behind it, and it's just
dude,
just clowning around.
Well, even behind that, they poorly balanced it. It's I think it's a cool idea that I level 10 and up can go into Kuma Asylum.
Is that how it works? I thought it was 30.
I think it's lower than 30.
But, really?
Yeah, and so it's that's cool that you can have that kind of change or whatever, or that kind of content available for lower levels and stuff, but at the same time, the balance of it is terrible. It looks like it took so many resources. it is a completely freshly designed map, like completely freshly designed mechanics with like the diamonds dropping and like beam of light, slowing effect if you pick it up. Like there are all these mechanics which they had to put resources into to create this, like to create Kuma Asylum.
It's just like just the fact that players can take the position of bosses, and just the amount, just like the fact that it takes so much effort to even try to kill one of these bosses, but it takes so little effort for the boss to kill you. You get like you'll like see the boss, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna hit my skills. Here we go, and then it's just like, boom, you're getting a 2-shot. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, what do I do to prevent that? And then you repeatedly hitting your face on the wall over and over again. It's just like, oh my god, what is this game mode? Never really like spent the time to even do this.
Yeah, and a lot of people pretty much, if you've ever been on the human side, it feels so imbalanced. Like, I've seen it done. You can win as humans, however much people don't think that you can. But you have to have, like, elite team coordination of, like, CC and blocking and, like, no one picking up the diamond until all three of them are found, and then you, like...
Not only that, it's solo queue. You can't even queue as a team. Like, you're in there with 6 other people you don't even know. They're varying levels. They could be brand new players. Like, you're gonna be like, hello, do you know how to do PvP? And it's just kind of like... Oh my! It's like a suicide mission. That's how I feel. Like you're going in there and you're like, all right, let's just hope people know what they're.
Roll the dice, please God, give me Kumas. But I don't know. I think with the implementation of it, like I said, it's cool that they give that content to lower levels. Along with, you can actually make a lot of money even. Like, if you're fresh leveling and you get, like, the winning boxes, or even the non-winning boxes, getting, like, Masterwork Outcast, Spellbinds, and stuff like that, that's good money for a leveling player,
Yeah.
So I don't think that Kuma Asylum has been a terrible implementation in the game, but I really hope that they don't do this again. Like,
I hope that they provide more meaningful content. Like, the game, like, I understand, like, in terms of their mindset that they want to provide content for lower levels in order for them to, give them that sort of like feel that they can like get a taste of how endgame feels and get into like as they're making their way to level 60. I think that's fine. It's a great intention, but with TERA, it's way more based on level 60. The game will continue to be designed around level 60. And just the fact that they're removing dungeons that they feel is flawed at level 60 in order to provide brand new content, in order for their service to balance out. They have really good intentions for the end game, and I think they should continue that idea.
Yeah. I think with how TERA has been evolving, I think it took a little bit of a dip, like we've discussed this whole podcast, in the implementation of Wonderhome. Hurting both the economy and just the quality of PvE content. They released some fun stuff like Kuma Asylum, some fun festival events like the Bamorama, which there's an awesome video of that on TERA Today, the new media section over there. Go check that out, of Flo betting on BAMs. The snowball battleground. I love to see that kind of implementation, but with all, I have so much hope for the next patch. Like that's where it all comes down to. Really seeing like the increase of the economy flow, the increase of quality PvE content, and hopefully a little bit more of a balance to hard class or really really strong classes such as Lancer, such as Archer, because they do have that like opportunity with a new gear set.
Exactly. I think that with new quality PvE content coming out, it's just gonna help compare TERA to other games. Like the PvE content in TERA is really fun, and I think they have to continue that idea. It's just like to this day, like I think that my PvE experience with TERA was really fun, and I think they can definitely do it again. I'm sure. Like it's just yeah.
We can only hope, we can only pray, and just all in due time, all in due time with the new patch hitting KTERA on the 14th. we can probably expect to see ours on what, I would say late April, early May is my expectation. That's when the Reaper will hit. Maybe a month after we'll see the PvE content, or it might release as a whole entire bulk. So I think everything in due time will be addressed, and I'm pretty sure everyone here, whether it be in stream, on twitch.tv/Kilryan, or if you're posting on YouTube comments and whatnot, tell me what your expectations are and what you're hoping to see the game progress into. And yeah, today we touched up on the PvE content of old TERA, of modern TERA, and what is upcoming in TERA, as well as the new content of Kuma Asylum, and our hopes for the PvP tournament that's going to be hosted by EnMasse Entertainment over on US TERA. Hopefully you all enjoyed the podcast. Make sure to follow me on twitch.tv/Kilryan. Follow Flo on twitch.tv/Flowroro. As well as check out both our respective YouTube channels where we will be posting this podcast. So youtube.com/Kilryan, youtube.com/Flowroro. You can check out all of our links, all of our plug life here on, actually above me. You can see all of our links with the awesome overlay done by Kitsumi-chan. And yeah, have any final words, Flo?
I think that overall, we're really having fun with this podcast, so we really want to hear what your opinion is. We were looking for more questions. We want to see exactly what you guys want to hear from us. If you have anything, any big concerns, we want you to post on Twitter, on Facebook, hashtag everything TERA. We will really want to know what we should be talking about next. After all, we really want to provide as much information as possible with TERA, and we'll continue to do so every week. After all, we're trying to keep this up, and hopefully next week we'll have a special guest coming. What do you think?
Hopefully, we're looking for it. We're looking for it. Flo's trying to get all the girls. Trying to get all the girls here.
You gotta get a cute girl. I mean,
that works. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the podcast. Make sure to comment down below. Make sure to follow us everywhere we go. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
All right, see you guys later.
That's how you